Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world, you know it is JJ and JJ's PC Builds. Yes, we're doing this early in the morning here. It looks like it is Tuesday the 6th, 2023, and that is the 6th month of the year. But anyway, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. I'm working towards 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. What I mean by 4,000 watch hours, watch the videos from beginning to end, would be much appreciated, would help us get monetized. Hopefully by the end of the year we can get up to at least 10,000 subscribers and some awesome watch hours. Okay, and now also too, I want to welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds family. And all the veteran subscribers. Want to say thank you for being a subscriber, and thank you for all the love and support you've shown us on the channel and helping us grow. So, thank you very much. And also too, just want to say I appreciate all the comments you guys been putting on my videos. I've been doing my best to answer all of them, so let's go from there. Okay, now, the talk of the day is, one thing I didn't do was, I didn't do an unboxing individually of each new component that I got for my computer. So what I plan to do today is this. Show you all the Ryzen 7. The Ryzen 7 right here. 5700X. You know, I did show you guys the unboxing when I was putting my PC back together. But I wanted to show you, you know, the unboxing, you know, of what's inside this box. And this comes as a bundle package, people. This processor and the motherboard came as a bundle package. And that is from Micro Center, believe it or not. And if you want to show love and support to Micro Center, even though they're not a sponsor just yet, but you can go over there to microcenter.com, make sure you take a look and show them some love and support, and, you know, go have a gander at see what they got in the stove. So they got thousands upon thousands of PC parts, so make sure, and they got some, also too, just to say, they got some awesome technicians and staff over there, management and all that. So make sure y'all give them a good visit over there at microcenter.com. See, I don't know why I was thinking Microsoft. You know, oi, 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 oi. But anyway, just give them a shout out, you know, tell them JJ sent you. But anyway, let's get to it. Okay, now the thing is this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pull up Stinker Center. I mean, not Micro Center. Oh, we're going to pull up Amazon. No, actually, we're not going to pull up Amazon. We're going to do this right. We're going to pull up AMD. Wait a minute, where are y'all at? Hold on, hold the phone. Let's get this straight. Let's turn off something here, right? Let's take it to the action screen, right? Okay, so we're typing in AMD.com, and then we're gonna go /Ryzen 7 5700X. So this way we'll go right to it. Alrighty, so here we are, bringing you right to it. Ryzen 7 5700X. Why I chose the 5700 over the 5800X was the fact that the 5800X was more expensive than the 5700X. That was one thing. Two, I didn't really see much of a difference because of the max boost clocks on them. They said this one's supposed to be at 4.6, the other one's supposed to be at 4.7. They both have 4 megabyte of L2 cache. They both are 7 nanometer TSMC. You know, the die. They both are desktop platforms. They're both 8-core 16 threads. The base clocks are about basically the same. That's at 3.4 gigahertz. I say the L1 cache at 512 KB is the same. The L3 cache, the 32 megs, is the same. What's different is that the TDP is 104 watts on that, and this one's 65. Big difference. Okay, they're both unlocked. They both have a max temp of 90C. They both take Windows 11, Windows 10, Rail, x86, 64-bit, Ubuntu, x86, 64-bit, operating system support, They both are PCIe 4.0. They both accept up to 3200 megahertz. They both have DDR4. They both accept the same technologies. So, and the same amount of RAM, which I already explained that. That's pretty much it. They both are VR ready. We know that. Now, as far as what's going on between the 5700 and the 5800, nothing really. I mean, there's not much difference but the price. Okay, so we are just looking at price alone that separates the two. So let's go and find out what the price is for the Ryzen 7 5700X is. And we'll just go backwards, and now we'll go to Amazon. So now we'll go to Amazon, and we'll find out what's going on. So bear with me. Like, I act like this is my first day. So okay, now let's do this. The 5700X, they say it's at 192. I got it for a cheaper price than that. Okay, so 192.80 is not too bad. Now, the 5700G is at 167. The 5800X is at 226. See the difference between this and that is, okay, we'll pull up the 5800X. Okay, copy. Let's go over here and paste and pull up the specs, and then come over here, tech power up. And there's the specs. So originally launch price $449. So it's definitely almost half that price now when you go to buy it. As far as anything else, it's still active. It was released on November the 5th, 2020. Okay, now, I don't know how it's possible. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's just do a side by side and get this out on here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what they call a side by side. Okay, so let's see. Let's pull this one out. Alrighty. Let's make it down a little bit. Okay. Alrighty. So, looking at the 5800X and the 5700X, this gives you a side-by-side comparison. Okay. Now, let's pull it down just a bit more, so this way y'all can get a good idea. Now to your left will be the 5800X, and this is what we're looking at right now. Okay, and on your right will be the 5700X. So this gives you an idea of what you're looking at. Okay. Now the frequencies, now the base frequency, the 5800X is at 3.8, the 5700X is at 3.4, which is no big deal. I mean, you can always change the base frequencies on either one, it don't matter. Especially if you're putting it on auto, I'd rather have it go a little bit lower and then go all the way up high. Me, I'd rather have a little bit of swing in it. So, now the turbo clock on the 5800 is only 100 megs different than the 5700, so it's only 4.7 gigahertz compared to 4.6 gigahertz. Same megahertz clock. The multiplier's only difference is that the multiplier is 38x on the 5800X, and on the 5700X is 34x. It's not a really big deal. TDP, there's like a big difference between the two. One's got 105 watt TDP, which that's the 5800X, and the 5700X has got 65 watts. And it's a 57X, 65 watts. Okay, now compared to the 5800X, as far as TDP wise, you got one processor that's more hungry on that power, so you're going to end up having to, you're going to chooch the hell out of your power supply if you don't have anything in between 850 to 1,000 watts. Okay. Now, on the other hand, you can get almost the same amount of clock frequency. Very, very close. Very minute. For less amount of wattage power off of the 5700X, which I thought myself was a better deal than the 5800X. 5700X, 65 watts, lower TDP. It's not a big deal. Processor's not going to chooch and cause it to burn up or anything else, At least it won't catch fire. At least it's not dumpster fire. Okay, you have to understand. They're both Vermeers. They're both Vermeer. And they both take everything else the same of the same of the crop. Okay. Now, the 5700X says it's Gen 4 20 lanes, CPU only. Now, the 5800X doesn't say that, doesn't state anything about it. So, we would imagine it's got some kind of something going on there. So, who knows? But as far as, feature-wise, they both got the same amount of features. They both got the same amount of cache, except for that the 5700X is shared cache. And that's probably in a good sense compared to the 5800X, which doesn't show that shared cache. So, all in all, I really do not see a big difference between the two. Alright? I really don't. I mean, the multipliers, the price, and the TDC, and maybe a little bit of performance. But I don't see really a big difference for the price. I really don't. They both have the same amount of cores, same amount of threads, everything. I really don't see nothing biggie about the price. So when it comes to it, all in all, looks like the Ryzen 7 5700X is there for the win. And this is coming from Tech Power Up. Okay? And I want you all to get something straight. Tech Power Up, I've always gone to, never had a problem. So they always have decent amount of information. And y'all can believe what you want to believe, and you can roast me in the comments below. I don't care. The reason is because the information level that they put out there for us on each and every product, they spend all their time, their hard-earned money and everything else. Make sure y'all showing some love and respect. You know what I'm saying? Think about, your job and what you have to do to manage your job. They can manage their job too. They're running a whole website. You know what it costs to run a whole website, especially this one in detailed. As detailed as this one is, it's costing quite a bit. They're spending out their money to give us the information. Information's not free. There's nothing free in this world. And understand that everything has a cost. And, when it costs you to get this information out to the consumer, on the back end, they don't see what's going on in the back end. Because the back end, that's where it's costing more, is on the back end than it is the front end. So, don't get me wrong, I'm just letting you know that if, being a consumers and all, I want you to understand what goes on in the back end you don't see. It's what goes on the front end you do see. So you see what's on the front side, but you don't see what's going on in the back. And that's all the bills and everything else. So I'm just bringing that up so you understand there's much more to it, to running a website or a channel or stuff like that, if you don't know what's going on in the background. So there's a lot more costs going on than you think. And that's the reason why you get sponsors and everything else, and then you sponsor their, you showcase their items, the sponsors' items and stuff like that, and you show respect to the sponsors, and they show respect to you, and so on, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we got that out of the air. Now, as far as the Ryzen 7 5700X compared to the 5800X, look, for price to performance, I'd go with the 5700X. 5800X gives just a hair bit, maybe 2% to 1% more horsepower. 1% more horsepower than the 5700X. That's why when I go on the internet and I'm sitting there looking on YouTube, where's all the reviews on the 5700X? Where are all the reviews? I don't see barely any reviews on the 5700X. On the 5800X, I see the reviews on. 5700, I don't see many reviews on. I wonder why. Did everybody think this is like a bad processor or something? You know, it's just like the RTX 4070. It's like everybody's trying to gnome it out of existence like it was never put out there. But it is, and they're still selling them, and it doesn't look like, and you know what? Boom. There goes the 5800X. Okay. As far as the 5700X, I've been running it for the last couple days. I haven't had no problems. And believe it or not, at 107 degrees Fahrenheit, and you can look it up to see what it is in Celsius, because I'm not going there with that. I'm not going to hold everybody's hand to tell you what's in Celsius and what's in Fahrenheit. Okay? Now, you can look it up. Y'all are adults, so I don't need to say it. It's 108 degrees Fahrenheit. I deal in Fahrenheit because when I cooked in the kitchen, I dealt in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Okay, so bear with me. I'm doing it in Fahrenheit. Just explaining myself because, you know, when I cooked for many of years, we dealt in Fahrenheit. The degrees in Fahrenheit. Just saying. But anyway, now, like I told you all, Tech Power Up's a really good place to get your information. You got the WCC Tech Info, you know, WCC Tech. You got them for information. You got video cards. You got videocards.com if you're looking for more information. You got the manufacturers' websites. You know, you got the retailers' websites. You got many of sites to get information and pull it from. And YouTube as well. But like I said, I haven't seen much of the AMD Ryzen 5700X, you know, on as reviews. Okay, now I've been testing this processor for 3 days, 2 or 3 days, 4 days, somewhere in between there. But as far as, you know, with it being, you know, running balls to the wall, yeah, it runs balls to the wall. Okay. Now, as far as, you know, FPS, okay, my response is this. As far as what I'm getting from FPS, I am seeing at least between 300 and 400 plus on the games that I'm playing. Okay, there's one game that's set at the max of 200 FPS. That's, you know, clocked out to the max of 200 FPS. Okay, now this processor is handling the RTX 4070 just fine. There is no bottlenecking going on between the two. So that's what surprised the hell out of me, that, you know, the processor's handling the graphics card. And trust me, I am pushing these harder than ever. Okay, FPS wise, I can tell you, it gives me, on the processor alone, when I tested it on certain benchmarks, it gives me at least an advantage of 20 to 35 watts, or 20 to 35 FPS. Okay, now when you're in the X version, and I'm gonna make something clear to you, when you try to get your FPS off of an X version chip, that FPS, that percentage of that FPS that you're getting off of that chip will help support your GPU. So you get a certain support from your processor as far as FPS, you know. So, and if you don't know what FPS is, it's frame rate per second. Okay. Now, if you get little support from your processor, which you find its baseline to its max up on FPS, even though that it's an X version, it still has an FPS. You can still get a frames per second off of that processor, which I did, and like I said, I get between 15 and 35 FPS. You know, average. You know, if you want real time, then we'll try to get you a real time. But as far as average, about 15 to 35. Okay. It's not too bad. That 15 to 35 I'll take. I'll take about anything at this point when it comes to the FPS. You know, any advantage I can get, that's going to be most appreciated. Especially when it's trying to help out the GPU. You know, the discrete graphics card, the GPU. So, but on an average in some of the games, you know, some of the benchmarks I've been doing has been averaging in between 400 and 1,000 FPS. It's been showing me between 400 and 1,000 FPS on some of the benchmarks I've been doing. So if you cut it down and you add graphics to it, so you might as well say you get about a third to almost a half, you know, like 3/8, close to about 3/8, a little bit over a quarter, 3/8 in between a quarter and let's say a quarter and a half, about 3/8. You get that amount of power, which will give you, basically, it'll give you between, on the low, it'll give you between 100 FPS up to maybe 350 on your FPS range. Overall, this is just average. Now, and this is just me averaging it out in my brain. I'm not using a calculator. Now, I'm doing this all by what I know for knowledge. That, you know, sometimes when some games, depending on the textures and everything else, you'll get in between a low at about 100 FPS all the way up to, on an average, you'll get between a mid-range of between 200 to 300 FPS. Look, it doesn't matter what graphics card it is, you're still going to get on the 1080p end, you're still going to get a max between 200 and 300 FPS. On an average. Doesn't matter what graphics card it is, unless it's one of the lower end graphics cards, you know, then you'll get lower end, you know, FPS. So your low end range gives you between your bottom range gives you between 5 and, let's say, 22 FPS, somewhere in there. Okay, now your low range will give you between 20 to basically 35, and then your mid range will give you between 30 to maybe 55, and then, you know, it goes on up and up and up. So every you know, class has different ranges when it comes to graphics cards. Okay, now I'm in the intermediate range, in the middle, so I get between 100 and, let's say, between 100 and 300 FPS on an average. So that right there, between 100 and 300 FPS on an average, That's not too bad for me. Now, I've tested this up on Second Life. It goes from 128 on a fully textured club with 50 avatars in there. It gives me between 112 to 125 FPS on the high side, but on the low side it'll dip down to maybe about 79, 80 in between there. So, you know, it does dip down, but that depends on where my camera view is. Okay, now if my camera view is set a certain way, then basically it won't dip down. But anytime you change your camera view, anytime where you're looking at your focus, when you change that camera view, that changes your FPS, drops it down or upwards. If you don't believe me, then go explore it yourself. So you want to know why your FPS dips? It's by what you're visualizing at. You got what they call a cam view. Okay, wherever your camera is viewing, that's where your FPS is going to drop off, you know, to certain textures. Now, if you got something with a high amount of texture, you know, a high rate of texture, you know, it's going to take and eat up your FPS like crazy. So if you got low textures, then you'll never have that problem. But when you got high visibility textures, like 4K textures, it's going to eat up your FPS like crazy. So that's the reason why people don't, you know, some like going to 4K because they like having the heavy amount of textures, but they can accept the low amount of FPS. Me, on the other hand, I'd rather stay at 1080p. At least I know my computer's not going to freeze every time I turn around. And I ain't got to worry about nothing. 1080p, I can see everything, move freely, have no glitches, no nada. Okay? You get a decent graphics card, 1080p, you won't have glitching or anything else. If you do, you got a problem. That means you got to find out what the problem is. Could be your graphics card's faulty, get it replaced. Could mean your even the cable going from your graphics card to your TV could be faulty. Means that you probably have to replace that. Or the TV itself could be faulty. So there's many things that could be faulty going from the graphics card to your monitor. Do understand that. So keep that in mind when it comes to, you know, what you're doing. I know I kind of got off track. I know we're just talking about the 5700X, you know. I know that's what we were supposed to be talking about. So, but price-wise, you guys seen price-wise. This is today's prices. So, do understand, and today's prices, that's what you get right here. So, now, as far as, here, let me do this. Let me do this. There, now y'all can see it. I'll showcase it like everybody else does. But anyway, I'm not going to make this a long video. I just wanted y'all to understand what's going on with the Ryzen 7 5700X, and the curiosity that I had in my mind was that why nobody would talk about it. I mean, even though that I just do a little bit of talking about it, you know, I mean, and there's only a $30 difference between the 5700X and the 5800X, but performance-wise, there's really not that much difference between the two. Okay? Now, not unless you go up to the 5800X 3D, and that's a different story. Okay? You know, you can get that 5800X 3D for $289. That's if you want to go up that pattern, and spend like $90 more and get yourself a 5800X 3D, which has a TDP of 105 watts, processor speed, it goes to 4.5 gigahertz. I mean, you lose 200 megahertz by going from the 5800X to the 5800X 3D. You lose 200 megahertz. So if you're losing something, there's a problem. Okay. But a 65 watt processor, I'm not complaining about. Okay, 65 watts I'm not complaining about. Now the Ryzen 5 5600G is a 65 watt processor. And that's how I'm keeping my cases cool, by running these low-end processors. But still getting decent amount of performance. And I want y'all to understand that. I'm getting a decent amount of performance out of everything that I get. I mean, everybody just doesn't talk about them because they don't think they're getting that kind of performance. But you know what? Me testing them out and running them for a couple months and telling y'all that, I get the performance from them. Ryzen 5 5600G didn't let me down for at least almost close to 9 months. So I expect that the Ryzen 7 5700X ain't going to let me down for the next 9 months. It has, so far for the last couple days, I've stressed it out. It hasn't given up the ghost. It's been run on point. Now, as far as the frequency, it does dip down to, when you got it on auto, it stays at right about 3.4 when it's running on idle, but when you go to put a little pressure on it, it goes up to 4.5, 4.6. The most I got out of this was 4.650. Okay, so 4.6 gigahertz. It's not too bad. I'm impressed with it. I mean, I wasn't expecting to get it up to 4.8 gigahertz, 4.9 gigahertz. I don't push processors like that, is because then you're degrading the processor. Especially when it's AMD processors, when you go to push it over its max, then that's when you come into degrading the processor. So, but me, I don't like to overclock like that. And if I do overclock like that, it'll be on a processor and motherboard that I'm doing just strictly for testing, but not using as my PC for, video editing, creator work, and gaming and stuff that I do for that. That's a totally separate system. So I'm not pushing my system that hard. I mean, I'm barely just nudging it, and it's still giving me great performance, just nudging it a little bit. Now, when I get a test bench, and that won't be too long from now, and then I put a motherboard up on there, and that won't be too long from that, and then, a decent processor, or testing processors, or testing, graphics cards, or testing other motherboards, and stuff like that. That's what my test bench is going to be doing. But as far as using it for my everyday system, I'm going to keep it at about 80%. I'm not going to push it so hard that it's going to, kind of break the bank on it. So when it comes to your personal PC, understand this. When you go to take and try to push it up to 130%, at 130%, you get what you get, but you start degrading your components. Now, if you run it at a decent 80 to 90%, then, you'll have it from years on end. It'll last you for years. Once you start pushing it past 100% to 130%, that's when you start degrading the components. That means when it starts to eat itself up. So with transistors and resistors, diodes, and so on, electronic components, they only have a shelf life of so long. I mean, now, new components, if they're really decent components, they'll last like the old time radios did long time ago. They'll last between 40, 60 to 100 years. If it's treated right, you can get something to last 100 years. If you treat it right. Treat it wrong, it's only going to last you between 2 to 3 years, and then boom, you're back buying another system. So keep that in mind. I know this is sounds like a little pep talk, but it's just to give you an idea of how to take care of your PC system to make it last longer. Okay, having the right kind of antivirus in there and everything else, since it's your everyday usage, you want to be able to take care of it, so make sure you have a decent antivirus in there. And I know a lot of people say, well, don't use Microsoft's prying into your business and everything else. Well, if you don't like it, then go to a local account, and then you won't have Microsoft prying into your business. Now, do understand this: have a local account, you don't get a lot of the perks you do with them managing your PC on their network. Okay, see, when you're on their network, they can see what your PC needs as far as driver updates and everything else. But once you take yourself out of their network and go rogue, then you're left with whatever you can get, like critical updates, and you'll be lucky to get regular updates for the security. So do have a think about it. I haven't had no problems with Microsoft, so if you're going to put your business up on your main PC, other than doing it smartly and and this is what I'm going to tell you: keep your personal objects and stuff on your own personal. Keep it on your phone that you can trust, that's locked. Okay, that nobody's going to bust into and steal your information. Putting it on your computer, your desktop computer, that is the biggest no-no I've always said. I've always told everybody for years, do not put your personal crap up on your main PC. Keep your personal crap either in your phone or keep it on a piece of paper in your desk. As far as your username and passwords, keep them in a book, write them down, keep them on your personal. Do not leave yourself open to attacks and vulnerabilities. Okay? Use common sense. If you want your computer to last a long time, use common sense. That's all I'm saying. And, you believe me or not, I use common sense on mine. But, you can't say it's going to last forever, because nothing lasts forever. But I do have good luck on computers, so you can too. Just heed the warnings, watch what you're doing, you'll be fine. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours right here on JJ's PC Builds. And again, thank you all the new subscribers. Welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And the veteran subscribers, definitely thank you and much hugs to you. And happy good morning on Tuesday for you. And thank you for all the love and support. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. We will see you on the next time, the next place, in the next video right here on JJ's PC Build. So have a great day, be safe, and watch out for the crazies that are out there, the crazy drivers and everything else, but be safe. Y'all have a good one. We're out of here. Bye-bye.